These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Hello, and happy home opener day here. Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd, your home for Minnesota sports entertainment, speculation, therapy when needed. Should be a nice one today. 51 degrees this afternoon, sun shining. A good afternoon for a 2-hour and 27-minute baseball game.
I'm excited. Baseball is here, and it's quick now, and I love it again.
Yeah. We will, on a second batch of Feedback Friday, we will talk some Twins and a lot of questions about the Bally's Sports North situation, too. We can get into some of that this week, but let's start, boys, with some Vikings stuff here from our audience. You can always hit us up throughout the week through the Score North app. That's the best way to get a hold of us. There's a feedback tab on it. You can send us your theories, your questions about whatever you want. Minnesota sports, life, whatever you want to hit us up with. That's also where you can request to get on, write that down every single week, too. So Justin R. says, thank you for shining a light on the Danielle Hunter situation earlier this week on Purple Daily. What do you guys think the percentage chance is that Hunter is traded after June 1st? I put it at 75% and recklessly speculate he's going to the Houston Texans.
Wow.
Houston has a plethora of picks due to the Deshaun Watson trade, plays a 4-3 defense, and needs defensive end upgrades. Also, Hunter lives in Houston in the offseason. Please recklessly speculate.
Ooh.
What is the percent chance you think they trade him?
Well, not knowing how things are going, I can't put it as high as 75% because I don't even know if there's dissension right now or if the contract is being addressed or is going to be addressed. So not knowing any of that, I would put a trade of Danielle at probably 15% to 20%. Okay. I don't know. Like, there's so much we don't know here. Again, I think that the team's choice, if all things work out, Dalvin Cook is gone, Zadarius Smith is traded, Danielle stays. Phil, to go back to what we've talked about previously too, we don't know if Danielle at his age, which is still a productive age, but he's certainly not a young player now. We don't know if this team sees him as being part of the track of where things are going as well. So I'll say 15 to 20% possibility. I like the speculation though. Houston, the Texans would be an intriguing trade partner, and Danielle would love you because Texas has no state income tax.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm at about 25%. I'm a little higher than Judley there. I just think things are just kind of weird, as we explained also on Purple Daily on Friday, that I think there's an impasse here where they've just kicked the can down the road long enough with negotiations, and they've been at this awkward spot with him in this exact vein for like the last few years. He's the one piece that you might be able to actually get significant draft capital for. This is not a Zadarius Smith, Dalvin Cook, where you're just going to probably get a day 3 pick. You could get day 2, maybe even day 1 picks if it's conditional and whatnot. So I'll say 25% that Danielle Hunter is traded this season.
Yeah, I think I'm closer to Declan on this one. Also, I'm curious here. Let's look up the Houston Texans draft picks. All right.
Ooh.
What do we got here? So they have 11 picks in this draft, but this trade wouldn't consummate until after the draft. But for this year, anyways, in a few weeks, they have 2 first-round. They have the 2nd, 12th, the 33rd, the 65th, and the 73rd. So they have 5 picks in the first 73, plus a 4th, a 5th, and 4 6th-round picks. What about 2024? So I'm like 20 to 25%. Like, I think there's a good chance. They have to get through a mountain of contract negotiations. He's going to want money that he's been begging for basically since he signed kind of an undervalued contract. He's never really been paid like a top edge rusher. And he only maybe has a couple years left to make that happen. So next year, the Texans have 2 first-round picks, a 2nd, a 3rd, 2 4ths, a 5th. A team like that is going to be much more willing to play ball. I don't know that, like, if you're the Texans and you're going into kind of a rebuild here, which they've been in, do you want a 29-year-old edge rusher, or would you rather just draft one? So I don't know if the Texans make sense, but as far as, like, a general trade, I'm going to put it at, like, I'm with Declan, like 20, 25%. We'll see. Blaine K chimes in here and says, I haven't heard you guys talk much about DTR, the UCLA quarterback. Could he be somewhat of a bargain version of Lamar Jackson if we can get him in the 3rd or 4th round? Needs some work on passing, but he's definitely dynamic with his legs. He could sit behind Cousins and be coached up on quarterback fundamentals from KOC and then take the reins as a true dual threat quarterback in 2024.
So this is very intriguing because it's the least sexy of the scenarios that we've discussed. But, I think there's a very good chance that Kwesi trades back from 23 in the 1st round. I think that there's a very good chance that Kwesi at the end of the day accumulates some draft capital. DTR is in the bin of project guys that O'Connell might want to take the best one possible, right? Like a 4th round guy or something like that, or 5th round, and develop him and take the type of shot that the Vikings previous administration did take a couple of times, but they weren't successful because I don't think that they had a quarterback guru in the building, so to speak. So I think that there is a real possibility, and it's not going to be nearly as much fun as like trading up in the 1st round or taking a quarterback in the 1st round. But I think there's a real possibility that they do this, that they take a quarterback in the mid rounds that they have traded back. So it might be that they take that player with a pick that they acquired in that 1st round trade and that they go in this direction. Now, the question is this, and this is probably best, answered by a guy like Thor, who knows a lot more about the draft than we do. But the question then is, who's the best of that lot?
I am not interested in that lot. I got to be honest. I just think if your plan for a Kirk Cousins successor is take a flyer on DTR in the 3rd round or the 4th round, then you aren't really serious about finding a young franchise quarterback. And I bring facts to back this up. Mm-hmm. Over the last 20 years, 2nd round or later quarterbacks, so 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 2nd round or later, there's been 182 drafted 2nd round or later. 14 have panned out as multi-year starters who are above average. 14 out of 182. Yep. What's the math on that? Like 7% or something?
Yeah.
And the list includes Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, and some of these are like, okay, like you'd take a Russell Wilson for sure. Derek Carr, Colin Kaepernick, Andy Dalton, Matt Schaub, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jalen Hurts, looks like a gem. Kirk Cousins, Tony Romo was actually undrafted. Dak Prescott, Tyrod Taylor, Matt Castle, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and David Garrard. That's it. Last 20 years. So it's great in theory, like, oh, we'll just draft Kellen Mond and he can sit behind Kirk for a year and you can mold him and then cut him because he sucks. And then DTR can just kind of come in and like get the lay of the land and learn from Kirk and then hold a clipboard for 5 years. Like that's what's going to happen if you don't draft a quarterback in the 1st round.
I don't disagree with you, but I mean, I could see the Vikings doing exactly that.
And that's fine if you're looking for a backup quarterback.
Yeah. And you know,
or if you're looking for a complete crapshoot.
Well, and the problem is this: the odds that you just went through are stronger that you are going to find the next Kevin O'Connell as a quarterback, which
Kevin
means
O'Connell
this guy could be a great coach.
Kevin
which means
O'Connell
the guy could be a great coach. He could be your head coach in 5 years.
He's one of your 182 on that list.
Yes.
That did not pan out.
Yeah, I still want to know how they screwed up that scouting report for the Pats. I've watched O'Connell throw. There ain't a whole lot there.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I told you this in training camp last year. I watched him. He's not. Wait,
you watched him throw last year in training camp? He's like 37 now.
Yeah, remember though he was.
No, but
I
watched the fundamentals.
Passes.
Yeah, I know he likes to sling passes. He can throw, but I'm telling you,
you're judging a 37-year-old now.
I don't know, man.
15 years ago is when
I was looking at things
him.
like form. I was watching it very closely. I was not impressed. I'm just saying, I was not impressed. Bill Belichick. You know what? Man. As a 7th round pick, yes. As a 6th round pick, yes. As a 3rd round pick by the New England Patriots, no.
Judd could have told you, man. One look at those mechanics as a 37-year-old mechanic.
It just doesn't have a great mechanics.
Maybe he has labrum issues from throwing the ball around with his kids or something. I don't know. Let's see here. Stanford Evavold chimes in. The Vikings draft this year is extremely titillating to me because I believe Kwesi is. That's a great word.
I think that's the first time. I think that's the first time that word has been used on Score North, and I love it.
Yes.
So it's extremely titillating to Stanford here because I believe Kwesi truly is allowed to modify the roster for a 3-year future starting this year compared to last year, which was meant to be more of a stabilization, catch your breath season. I think this year, even more so than next year, the Vikings are poised to strike and make the biggest splash in the draft in order to move up for a quarterback.
Whoa.
If I were the GM, he writes, I would do what it takes to move up to the 3rd pick. And while I'd take any of the top 3 quarterbacks available, Anthony Richardson would be my ultimate target. The real question is, what would it take to get there? The Cardinals feel like they're in at least a soft rebuild, so accumulation of picks and talent are in dire need. Personally, I would offer to move up to number 3. Would you do this? First round pick, so you do a pick swap this year, plus your 2024 and 2025 first round picks. And maybe that's not enough. You might have to throw some other things. Would you guys consider trading, let's say, at least 2 future first round picks and probably more to go get, say, Anthony Richardson with the number 3?
Dex, what say you?
Oh my God,
I'm out on this. I'm out. I'm out on that. I can't give up the 2 first round picks for one of these guys. I'm just not necessarily in love with a lot of these quarterbacks like Richardson and Levis. So, and I'm not opposed if there's an area where it makes sense to go up and get them, in the late teens area, if the Vikings want to jump up 5 or 6 slots and they work out a different style of trade. Okay. I can play ball there, but I don't think it'd be wise for the Vikings at this point to go all the way up to number 3 or top 5, basically, to get one of those guys.
I'd probably agree with that. By the way, while I love the use of the word titillating, it shouldn't have been used.
Oh, wow.
I looked it up.
What's
I'm
the
just
definition?
saying. I'm just saying. I wanted to see because I thought it sounded right. Like it sounded great.
What's the root word there? Is it titillate?
There are some good drops potentially about to be made right here.
Here it is. Here's the meaning of the word titillating. Arousing mild sexual excitement or interest. Salacious. For instance, she lets slip titillating details about her clients.
Okay.
All right.
So salacious.
Yeah, arousing mild sexual excitement or interest. Salacious.
Well, depending on how you feel about this quarterback class.
I mean,
well, yes. I mean, you could. I'm just saying it sounded like such a good word that I thought it might apply very well. And I guess, yeah, like you said, if it's mildly sexual exciting to you, then yes, you're correct.
You know what gets me feeling all titillating? And Dex, I should mention, we weren't able to get to a second episode of Flagrant Howls this week. And so I want to shout out our friends here at mydullknives.com.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever wrapped your hand around a freshly sharpened knife and carved up a carrot in the kitchen? I have discovered mydullknives.com, where the folks at Vivront will send you a safe and professional mail kit. You can send your dull knives on a spring break for a couple days. Vivront mails them back to you all within just a few days, freshly sharpened and ready to rock. What's funny, I actually went in to, there's a Vivront shop in Wayzata, and I went in, and my guy Joseph taught me like 3 different grips you can use on your big knives that I'm kind of afraid to use some of these. I don't know what I'm doing. He just spent 20 minutes teaching me how to grip it differently, how you can rapid fire chop an onion like you see on TV. You can take these classes at Vivront and get your personal knife sharpened. It's incredible. mydullknives.com. mydullknives.com. And a shout out to our friends at Nutrisource as well. Boy, Maya Mackey, super excited. So she had to go on like a bland kind of, I don't know. We had to feed her a different food for a couple days because she got into something. She's just like, she's kind of a ninja.
Just got to stop that.
But now she's back on her regular Nutrisource chicken and rice food, and she is so excited. It's her favorite time of the day, 2 or 3 times a day, or however often she begs us, basically, because we're pushovers. Look at this YouTube video. She's just slobbering all over because of Nutrisource.
She's very happy. And so are those 2 pups, especially my Stella. She had me up, I think it was 7:30 this morning, and she basically got out of bed, started barking. And while she can't talk, I swear what I heard was this: Nutrisource, it's Nutrisource time. So I got up. I said, all right, Stella. Went downstairs and poured her a bowl. And I'm going to tell you right now, she was one happy pup. Like that puppy.
Like little Vinny boy who loves his treats too. Yep, he does. He's on the Stella plan where he goes outside. Sometimes there's a potty, sometimes there's not, and then he just sits by the treat counter, knowing, hey.
Yep, it's time.
Give me one of those.
Hey guy.
Hey,
Hey
fella.
guy.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
time,
fella.
mom. It's time,
Hey.
mom and dad.
Hey,
Get your
fella.
act together.
Fella's
Hey, guy.
good.
Hey, we should make some
Takes out
fella.
a
Fella's,
smoke.
fella's a really good word.
Hey guys,
It's really condescending. Hey, guy is
All right,
condescending.
fella.
Hey, fella's like, I want to fight.
Okay,
Condescending.
buddy. You know, that's it depends on how you pronounce the buddy too. You know, buddy. Yeah, that's also a good one.
Okay, chief.
Yeah.
By the way, that's NutrisourcePetFoods.com. NutrisourcePetFoods.com to find a Nutrisource retailer near you here. All right, Gabe Lucas says, I got to call you guys out on this one. I want to preface this by saying I am a huge fan of the show, been listening more or less daily since the radio days, but Hendon Hooker is not it. And I feel like it's a slight media malpractice to strongly support the Vikings drafting him in the first round without actually seeing a snap of Hooker's tape. My only gripe with the show is sort of the box score scouting. Still a great show, much love, but watch Luke Braun or someone else's breakdown. He's not a good prospect. Couple things here. I don't think, couple things. Thor is incredible at doing this. This is what Thor does for a living. He breaks down film. He rates prospects. He writes about football from a tape grinder's perspective.
Right.
And he has said the same thing. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't think any of us are like all aboard the Hendon Hooker first round train.
Nope.
I'm kind of out
I think
on
we're entertaining a premise that Daniel Jeremiah and Bruce Feldman and Todd McShay, right?
Yes.
We're entertaining a premise that's being put out there. We're talking about what's being mocked. I don't think if you said, all right, you three guys right now, gun to the head, career on the line, life on the line,
I'm not
Hendon
taking-
Hooker in the first round? No, probably not.
Yep. No. The unspoken mantra of this show and PD as well is this: where there is speculation, where there is reckless speculation, we will go. And so that's what we have to do. Like we are the equivalent of firefighters with speculation. So like we don't get to call our shots about where it takes us. We just go.
Yeah.
It's our profession. So like, yeah, Hendon Hooker is being thrown out there. We're not supporting it, but we can't ignore it.
I will say I'm not adamantly against it because I've never been in a room with Hendon Hooker. And I think so much of playing quarterback is about, like, people are ragging him up because, well, the age thing, I get it. But people are ragging on him because, well, he didn't do these things systematically in college. All right, he wasn't being asked to do things. He was being asked to do very specific things in that offensive system. If Kevin O'Connell gets in a room with Hendon Hooker and says, I know you're a little old, but after talking with you and watching all your film, I, Kevin O'Connell, think there's a chance you could be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL if we just groom you for like a year or two.
Yep.
Okay. Or if you think he's an exceptional leader of 53 men in a locker room.
Right.
Which, I don't know. Again, like how would I know that if I've never been in a room with Hendon Hooker before?
But we're not supporting it.
So-
We just don't know.
Yeah. No one's banging on the drum for Hendon Hooker here.
And Thor has absolutely ripped it. So
Yes, he has basically said he will
move.
He will abandon Minnesota if they draft Hendon Hooker in the
He's,
first round.
he's threatened
So.
to move.
Michael Dawkins says, Michael Dawkins represents about 100 people who've asked the same question. Phil, I can't help it. I'm such a man for detail. I'm curious about your right eye this week. Not to impose, just that I noticed. Hope all is good. Yeah, I explained this on like Monday, I think. I used to get like mild styes sometimes. It's like a little just like irritation.
Yep.
And I just got a whopper last week that it's almost gone now, thankfully. But I almost went to urgent care on Saturday.
Is it
Such a
painful?
wuss.
Oof.
It was like the side of my head was throbbing for like a day and a half
Oh.
on Friday, Saturday last week.
Miserable.
But we're almost back here. Old
Yeah.
Macadax had a stomach thing this month.
Yeah,
He's
man.
had a
You
Welcome
moved back
back.
here and you just
respiratory thing.
You just went to crap.
Yeah, traveling too. Like when I was in LA for that Barrett Sports Media Summit, I
That'll
feel
do it.
like you're just in a room with people. Like
Yeah.
everyone's like talking close and
COVID
put her in
just
the old
everywhere.
vice, you know. Yeah.
COVID just being spread throughout the room.
Yeah.
Granted, I think it was the copious amount of alcohol I had in Vegas, but I was a mess for like a week because I got a cold afterwards. Like it was it was terrible.
Yeah. I almost feel like, we had to wear masks for all that time, and it's so nice to just not have to wear a mask after, a year and a half or whatever. Thinking about on airplanes and airports now, I might wear a mask again. Just not even for like COVID. I just don't want, if I can reduce other people's flu and cold germs getting to me in close quarters.
100%.
People, did you guys get sick during the 2-year pandemic? I didn't even get a cold for 2 years because everyone's like staying away from each other and wearing masks and stuff. So bring back masks. Just quit
That part
sneezing
was great.
at me.
Staying home.
You still stay home, dude.
I love it. I love it. Just stay
But you go to
home.
brunch, and you go to games.
I go to games.
Cub Foods.
Yeah. I mean, I
Gas
go out,
station
but I don't go out a lot.
for smokes,
Liquor store.
and the newspaper.
Yep. Although my Speedway here quit carrying the newspapers, so now I got to go to a holiday that's farther away. It's a pain in the ass.
Judd here.
So gas stations are getting rid of newspapers. Cars are getting rid of AM radio. What's Judd going to do? How's Judd going to consume media?
I'm going to live in the past. I'm just going to live in the past. I'm just going to do what I do. Get some old sports pages. Read some old Sid columns, Phil. That's what I'll do.
Marty Lincoln says, with the draft less than a month away, what moves will the Vikings make to clear cap room for their draft class? Over the Cap has the Vikings with the least amount of cap space. They have to clear probably like $6 million for their rookie class. They have maybe $1.5 million or $2 million available. So, Judd, I don't think they need that space for the draft, right? Like they just need it for when those guys sign. So you could wait to sign your first round pick until training camp.
Yes.
So they have all summer to clear. They could do a Brian O'Neill restructure, a TJ Hawkinson,
and Cook's
contract.
probably gone. So he comes off then too. So
Zadarius.
it's not hard.
Yeah, you don't need to be compliant. You're not like your first round pick doesn't walk up, hug Roger Goodell, and then sign a contract
and then just get a huge boatload of just a wad of cash.
Goodell's just greasing everyone with.
There's a pending transaction, and he comes up there like Kwesi actually has to hand over a check. It's a whole thing. This bounced, sir.
Oh man! And then Jacob Youngerberg says, first of all, I'd like to say I love listening to Purple Daily. I'm a senior in high school right now and hoping to go for journalism in college.
Love it.
I have grown up loving the Vikings and loving football, and I want to be involved with it the rest of my life. I listen to you guys and hope someday to do the same things you do, which is basically just bitching about Kirk Cousins every day and making a living out of it. If you have any advice for me for trying to take a step into sports reporting, I would love to hear some. Again, love what you guys do and hope the podcast keep growing. Judd, do you have any advice for Jacob?
I guess it would be this. It's a cool job. It's a fun job. It's a great job at times. But if you want to, here's the first level of advice that I would give now. If you love the Vikings and you want to continue to love them and love the games and don't do this, because your love of the sport will not leave. Like I still love sports. I'm a huge geek still, but as Phil and Dex can, I think attest to, it becomes very difficult. Like if you are like Vikings, I love them, I'll never desert them. It becomes very difficult to do our job then, because you're in locker rooms, you're dealing with players. It gets a little bit more difficult. Doesn't mean you still can't like the team, but I'm just saying if you love being a fan, then this is not a great job. But if you love talking about the team and you love assessing things and breaking things down, then yes, it's a great job.
I think there are in 2023 there are a lot of fanalist platforms you can, if you just want to be a diehard fan. I think what you're kind of saying is we take a little bit of a different approach in our careers, and on this show is we're not afraid to criticize and the other thing is if you want, there's different things. There's being a talking head idiot like we are. There's being an actual sports reporter, which we've done all of these things.
Yes.
If you think I love the Twins and baseball, so I want to cover the Twins and be in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to do your job objectively if you're just sort of fanboying out, because Joe Mauer was in there or whatever.
depends.
So
Right.
So I guess like there's a little separation that goes into when you get into sports media, sports journalism. There's a little bit of separation that gets created between your fandom and your job, and that's something I don't know if people fully realize when they get into it.
Yeah, and the separation aspect, it actually really works well to kind of the opposite of what you're saying, where when you cover a team that you really don't have much emotional attachment to, it actually makes your job a lot easier, right? Like I covered Gopher hockey when I first started here at when it was still 1500 ESPN. And I grew up a Gopher hockey fan, but I had been unplugged from the team for so long, and also being at St. Cloud State, you kind of learn not to really like the Gophers so much. But I didn't have this objective, insane fandom for the Gophers, so it made covering the team a lot easier than I thought it would be. Where when I went into a Twins or a Vikings or a Wild locker room for the first time, there definitely for sure was a holy crap, I'm in a locker room with athletes that I've watched on TV just yesterday or the last few years that I grew up as a kid. You just you learn how to separate it. Now, some people have, I think, a difficult time separating that, but you just kind of have to learn to separate your fandom from your, reporting, if you will.
It's funny. Like I remember the first NFL locker room I was ever in. I was an intern at KFan in 2005, and I went in, and it was my job because they remain to this day the radio flagship partner of the Vikings. You can find their games on the radio station, right? And so my job was to go in the locker room and get them to read liners for the radio station.
Oh God.
And this is like after
just
games, they sent me in to go do some of this.
Why?
Training camp, but they also wanted a couple during
It's
the
easier
season.
to do it then.
That makes sense.
So you go in with a script and you say, hey, Chester Taylor, that was the year after, I guess.
Right.
Moelde Moore, can you read this script? And there was a couple guys that told me to buzz off, but I'll tell you, the nicest guy that I encountered as a 19-year-old intern in the business, first time in the locker room, was Nate Burleson.
Oh.
He was having a breakout season, or he had like the 04, 05. 05 was kind of a weird year because Dante got hurt and Brad Johnson came in. But Nate Burleson, after Randy Moss, was their big-time receiver. And Nate couldn't have been a more down-to-earth, nicer guy. Probably sensed that I was just weird and nervous. So no surprise that he has now emerged as one of the biggest media stars on the planet with football and with CBS. But yeah, just I don't know. There's probably 10 more hours of advice for Jacob there. And I would say one more piece of advice, Jacob, just create content. So many people like, I want to get into this or that, or I'm going to go to college and learn journalism, and definitely do all those things and learn. But we're in an era now where you can just create. 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, you couldn't really create because there wasn't like social media or TikTok or YouTube or podcasting. If you're Judd Zolgad back in the late 80s, early 90s, you couldn't just create. I guess you could just like write in your notebook and pass it out around the neighborhood or something.
No, you didn't. You didn't.
But they weren't going to let you write in the Star Tribune or
no. But I mean,
TV
you can write
or something.
But I mean, I think when I was like in third grade or fourth grade, I would write columns on a manual typewriter. I've saved them for a long time. Yeah, I didn't know how to type yet, which is the greatest class. By the way, if you're ever going to take a class,
Scoggins does now.
I think I was. Yeah. If you're ever going to take a class, make sure typing. It's the greatest class of all time. But yeah, Phil's right. Create. Talk into take your phone out, spew hot takes, record them.
Put
just
them out.
Something like that.
And then delete them like a year later so you can not have them come back and haunt you.
Exactly right. But it doesn't have to be, you don't have to create for the masses. The most important thing is to create just to get used to it, because it definitely then starts to mold the direction for you. And be willing to do everything. Do not say I'm only this. That's the biggest mistake. I only write, or I only do podcasts, or I spew hot takes. That's it. Be willing to do it all, because you'll find that people will value versatility, which is important. The other thing is you often stumble upon something that you don't think that you might be good at or like. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, oh, hold on a second. Mm-hmm. I do. But the only way to get there is to do it.
Yeah.
So you can't do not be a one-trick pony.
Yeah. So look at that. I think we just, there it is, Jacob. There you go. You don't even have to go to college now.
Go out in the world. Go out in the world and take it by storm.
So, all right, we're going to hit you with another batch of feedback, sort of Twins related here as well on Feedback Friday, Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd.